Imagine it's a really hot summer day. You're standing comfortably under the bright sun with a wonderfully cool ice cream in your hand, truly enjoying that incredibly delicious cold dessert that's really refreshing you. But wait a second, have you ever wondered who was the first genius to come up with the idea of mixing ice, milk, cream, and sugar together to make something like this? Today, we're going on a historical journey full of secrets and legends to find out where ice cream really came from.
Music is currently playing softly.
Let me tell you a strange fact right from the start. Every year, about 15 billion liters of ice cream are eaten around the world. But what's even stranger is that the story of ice cream, just like the dessert itself, is full of different layers. The story of ice cream begins thousands of years ago, in the heart of the scorching deserts of ancient Iran. Back then, in the Persian Empire, something strange had been invented. They had dry ice houses, which were a kind of natural freezer, able to keep ice even in the intense summer heat, over 40 degrees Celsius, without electricity or any special equipment. But how was something like that even possible? Well, the walls of the ice houses were made from a special material called sarouj, which was waterproof and acted as a thermal insulator. The structure of the ice house was dome-shaped. This shape prevented the heat from penetrating inside. Plus, there were also a series of channels and wind catchers designed into these ice houses that would bring in cool air and push the warm air out. On top of that, the ice house was built below ground level to take advantage of the natural coolness of the earth. With the help of this special engineering, the ice collected in winter could be kept intact for months, so they could even use it in the middle of summer. Let's get back to the history of ice cream. Using these natural ice houses, nobles and the wealthy could enjoy cool drinks or desserts. For example, imagine an Iranian noble sitting in a garden. One of his servants would be fanning him, while another would go to the ice house, shave some ice, mix it with rose water, vermicelli, and fresh fruits, and make a delicious dessert for him called faluda, a dessert that still has its own fans in Iran to this day. But the story didn't end there. The invention of ice cream was a collaborative effort among different civilizations. A few centuries later, when the Arabs conquered Iran, they made a change to this recipe. Instead of using fresh fruit, they would make fruit syrups and mix them with ice. They called this drink sharbat. So back in the day, in the bustling markets of Baghdad and Damascus, people would drink glass after glass of icy sharbat, just like us who enjoy icy drinks in the summer. Of course, I should mention that the Arab sharbat wasn't just a simple cold drink made by mixing sugar, water, and fruit extract. Its texture was icy. It was something like our modern yak dar behesht, or similar to what is known in Europe today as sorbet. In fact, sharbat later inspired sorbet, and you could say that the European word sorbet actually comes from the Arabic word sharbat. Let's dive a bit deeper into the topic. During the Renaissance, sorbet made its way to Italy through trade routes like the Silk Road. The Italians fell in love with this dessert and started experimenting with their own new combinations. For example, they added milk and egg yolk to their sorbet and created a thicker version, which they called gelato. Of course, I should mention that gelato is different from gelatin. Their names are similar, but they have nothing to do with each other. Gelato is an Italian word meaning frozen, and compared to regular ice cream, it has less fat and is less creamy. In addition, gelato is served at a slightly higher temperature than ice cream, and it's much softer and smoother than ice cream. But gelatin is a protein substance that's used to gel foods like edible jellies, gummies, and desserts, or even to give shine and shape to some pastries and desserts. So don't mix these two up, because gelato is a thick and creamy Italian ice cream whose texture and consistency come from the ratios of fat, milk, sugar, and the churning technique, not from gelatin. The Italians loved art and food, and they used to serve gelato at celebrations and royal ceremonies. Kind of like how nowadays at very fancy and elaborate weddings, they often use those impressive multi-tiered cakes. But the story of ice cream doesn't end there. What we know today as real, authentic ice cream is thanks to the final, significant changes the French and the English made to the original recipe. In fact, they thoughtfully added thick, rich cream to gelato to make the dessert truly rich and wonderfully creamy. And that's precisely how the delightful ice cream we know today was born. Let's go over some other theories about the history of ice cream together. Dr. Kaveh Farik wrote an article in the Indian Express in 2018 about the origins of ice cream, linking its beginnings to Iranians. He says Iranians have been eating ice cream for 2,000 years, and even the design of ice houses inspired the creation of ice cream. He goes on to explain that even Alexander the Great, when he invaded Iran, fell in love with their icy desserts. But the captivating story of Nero, the infamous Roman emperor, is also one of those truly fascinating tales that often gets prominently mentioned in the extensive history of ice cream and frozen desserts. They say that the Roman Emperor Nero had a special fondness for icy, frozen desserts, and that's precisely why he would often order his loyal servants to go as fast as they possibly could to the towering mountains near Rome and bring back fresh snow and pure ice to use at his lavish parties and grand celebrations. Back then, they would mix the ice with honey, fruit juice, or fresh fruits like berries and grapes to make something similar to today's ice desserts or sorbets. On the other hand, many people say it was Marco Polo who brought ice cream from China. In fact, in ancient Chinese records from the Tang Dynasty, there's mention of an icy dessert made from buffalo milk, flour, and a small amount of camphor to give it a pleasant aroma. They even say that Emperor Tang had 94 people specifically employed just to meticulously make this exquisite dessert. Some people also say that Catherine de' Medici is the mother of frozen desserts. In fact, she was from the powerful Medici family of Florence, Italy, and at the age of 14, she went to the French court as a bride, married Henry II, and later became the Queen of France. She even brought her own special Italian chefs and pastry cooks with her for her wedding, and they meticulously made desserts like refreshing sorbet and creamy gelato at her wedding celebration, which subsequently led to these delightful frozen desserts becoming widely famous in France. Of course, I should absolutely mention that there isn't nearly enough concrete evidence to fully support these particular claims. And these intriguing theories are mostly just promotional stories made up by clever ice cream vendors in the 19th century. Let me tell you an interesting fact. How did ice cream even make its way to America? Or better yet, how did it reach its first mass production? Ice cream came to America from Europe with the first immigrants, but at first it was only for the wealthy and important people. They say George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin were all big fans of ice cream. But then a clever and innovative guy named Jacob Fussell founded an ice cream factory in 1851, and that significant event marked the true beginning of the mass production of ice cream. In 1874, Robert M. Greene skillfully mixed ice cream with soda and successfully created the delightful ice cream float, which subsequently became super popular. It's interesting to know that by 1909, they were producing 30 million gallons, that's about 114 million liters of ice cream every year. Later on, with technical advances like electricity, refrigerators, and packaging machines, ice cream became widely available and found its way into everyone's homes. But wait, there's still one more fun part left about the story of ice cream. I want to talk about the ice cream cone. The story goes that at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, USA, something interesting happened. Amidst all the hustle and bustle and colorful booths, there was an ice cream vendor who was really popular. So many people rushed over that he actually ran out of ice cream cups. Now imagine a crowd of people standing in front of his booth. Everyone was waiting for a cool ice cream, but there was no container to put the ice cream in. That's when a Syrian immigrant pastry chef named Ernest Hamwi, whose booth was right next to the ice cream vendors, quickly rolled up one of his thin pastries and handed it to the ice cream seller. And that's how the ice cream cone was invented. Of course, there are historical documents that say even before that, in the year 1888, a creative Englishwoman named Agnes Marshall, who was even affectionately nicknamed the Queen of Ice Cream, wrote in her comprehensive cookbook how you could serve ice cream in a kind of cone-shaped bread. Break time equals 0.5s/. She even drew a picture of it. In 1903, a man named Italo Marchini in America successfully patented the ice cream cone. However, it was Ernest Hamwi who truly made the ice cream cone widely famous and incredibly popular. Personally, I truly think the fascinating story of ice cream is more about incredible creativity and significant cultural exchange than just a simple, delicious dessert. This is because different civilizations each thoughtfully added something unique to this delightful dessert until it became the wonderful treat we all know and love today. But among all the many different ice cream flavors available, personally, I'm most deeply in love with classic chocolate ice cream. What about you? Be sure to write it in the comments. Now that you've heard the story, you must have realized that ice cream isn't just a simple treat. It's a 1,000-year-old tale about knowledge, creativity, and even business. From Iran's clay refrigerators to today's advanced factories, ice cream has always been a reason for happiness. And maybe the most important lesson from this story is this: some of the best things in the world are the result of collaboration and inspiration from different cultures. So next time you're eating ice cream, remember you're tasting a piece of history.